Welcome to Timeless Investing. We're going to talk about a lot of things on this channel that relate to personal investing. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about cryptocurrency. We're going to talk about the latest in apps to use to invest. We're going to talk about retirement. We're going to talk about a little bit of taxes. We're going to talk about the tried and true methods of building wealth, and we're going to talk about stocks, funds, options. We're going to be doing a lot of things that that will help to get a holistic view of finance in 2023. And looking back, we're going to look into the past, what's worked, what doesn't. We're going to look into the future and do a little projections. But what I really would like to say is that we are here for the common investor, and we don't want anybody to lose their pants, their shirt off their back. Beginning to invest, some popular strategies, is the buy and hold strategy. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing with just buying stocks that you believe in, tried and true, high yield, and you really can succeed with this strategy. But you'll need to avoid the temptation to sell when the market gets rough. And you'll need to make sure that you foolproof your portfolio with some bonds and high yield bonds that will help buoy the dips with stocks, and even with funds. I mean, it's good to have if you're going to do funds, that's fine. Make sure that they're aggressive, and then you have some conservative, diversified funds in there. We'll talk about gold. We'll talk about some of those type of currencies, and active trading can really hurt you if you don't know what you're doing. And so it is best, and for some people, buy and hold is tried and true. Though, as Peter Lynch once said, don't trim the roses just to also turn around and water the weeds, paraphrased. So you don't want to hold on to stocks that are just losing just because you prefer them. You got to have a little bit of savvy, and you're going to have to put some trust into into who you're listening to, and a big part of that is maybe it's investing into a voice that you subscribe to or that you pay for, a newsletter, something that has proven to have success. It's okay to look at that and use that as a touchstone for investing, but it doesn't hurt to check those once in a while as well, those sources. Buying index funds is also a good way to really you can yield really good results, especially if you're doing the buy and hold strategy. It's weighted a certain way to that you will get a good yield over time, and it is lower risk than just owning a few stocks, which can be very it can be very a lot of variance, a lot of um, um, a lot of changes that happen very often that you have to have your ear to the ground to really be able to take advantage of the changes that happen in the stock market. Um, Investing in stocks um, can be great if you have, again, if you have that source, and that's going to be again one of the things that's important. You got to have that source that you trust. And if you don't, then index funds are a great way to trust a source, the index fund. And so it's still another source. It's just a different type of source, whether you're going after QQQ or Vanguard. Personally, I love Vanguard. I always have. But there are other index funds out there that are really, really solid. And then um, we have some uh, income investing, um, where again, some dividend funds in stocks that will pay out a higher dividend. And you got to have a lot of your position in this to really take advantage of this, in the way it in the way it in the way it kind of is titled, as in cash payouts. I mean, you've got to have a lot of capital to be able to take advantage of that. Um, and then um, what's important also is to make sure that um, it's a lot of times people like to try to time the stock market, and there is definitely a cyclical nature that you can take advantage of the stock market in general terms. Um, you know, Holidays, where you have retail, and then you've got all the quarterly calls, and obviously there's things you can take advantage of there. Um, and then there's unfortunately times of war, times of peace. There's definitely certain stocks that you're going to want to take advantage of. Anytime there's a scare, hurricane season, talking about, again, I said holidays, Christmas season, the retail, I've already mentioned that. But you've got politics, presidential cycles. There's always a fear, or there's always this uncertainty that comes, and you can take advantage of uncertainty. But you got to realize that this isn't 100%. Doesn't always happen this way. So um, you can't always hang your hat that it's going to be 100% certainty with that. So um, it's definitely important to do a constant investing. Dollar cost averaging is another way to be boorish, but also be tried and true, instead of trying to time the stock market, and trying to break the code on those cycles, um, and put too much stock in those cycles. So, sometimes the best way is to invest simply every 2 weeks or every month, whenever your paycheck hits, to put a percentage of that straight into your portfolio, and just straight into funds or stocks, and however you want to do it. There's the apps that you can use to do that. There's plenty out there that you can take advantage of. Automatic provisioning of the percentages into certain types of investments. I mean, you've got Robinhood, you got Betterment, you've got Vanguard's got some great tools, Fidelity. There's a lot of there's a lot out there, and definitely can do a lot there with some of the latest apps. Um, so it definitely just the boring drip of your capital is going to be the best way long term. Talking about strategies for beginners, those are some of the best really to think about just the fundamentals. Some of the best low risk investments right now, um, because of in 2023, because of the high inflation going on. U.S. Treasury bills, notes, and bonds are really the best at this point. Federal government's backing that high yield, um, type of investments, high interest, and so it's going to be uh, it's going to be a really good one to get into, a good sector to get into, and you have a lot of different maturities available. Treasury bills, you got maturities of 4, 8, 13, 26, 52 weeks. And so you get a discount, and then you get a good redemption on that. Treasury notes, they come in maturities of 2 and 10 years. Treasury bonds have a long maturity of 20 to 30 years. And so there's a little bit more risk, but shorter duration than shorter duration Treasury securities. So it's really a good way to take advantage of the high interest rates right now. So you've got savings bonds. You can do savings bonds. It's a variable interest rate. The whole idea is that it tries to keep up with inflation. But there's a bit of a, you can do like a 30-year term plus the variable interest rate, but then it updates every 6 months to kind of keep up. And so it's a decent way to take advantage of the current canvas of financial canvas that we have now. If you live in a place with high taxes, these bonds, Series I savings bonds, are a good option since their interest payments are exempt from both state and local taxes. But it depends on the rate of inflation as far as trying to get in there. You can do fixed annuities. Again, these are all low risk type of investments to do right now. And again, the return is just like with the other ones mentioned. They're going to be low to moderate type of potential returns. The Series I saving bonds depend upon the rate of inflation on the potential return. Same with Treasury inflated protected securities. But again, fixed annuities, it's going to be modest. High yield savings accounts, moderate returns. It says high yield, but it's moderate depending upon the interest rates. Then you got CDs, sort of around the same type of returns as high yield savings accounts. There's different types of CDs, but again, low risk. And then money market mutual funds, again, you're going to have a low risk, moderate return. Then we get into investment grade corporate bonds. It depends. They really go on like credit rating of the corporate bonds, fixed income securities, but it's issued by public companies. So you're taking upon, a little bit of risk there. Risk level is moderate, but the potential return is modest to high, depending on how they do. And then, then you got preferred stocks. Again, this is going to be moderate risk level, but the return is modest to high. Um, and basically, it's the characteristics of stocks and bonds in one security, providing investors with dependable income payments plus the potential for shares to appreciate over time. Um, and then, so these are some low type of risk things to get into at this juncture that could really produce dividends, so to speak, down the line. Um, and low risk investors, might be more like about older generations that have more to lose in the short term. Um, you know, maybe they've already been in high risk investments and they've done well and they're ready to kind of put it on, really take advantage of the interests and their yields, and they're ready to kind of pad some of their gains. That could be a good way to do that. Um, some safe investments as of November 2023, as I'm speaking right now. There are again, we right now, some of the um, best ways to invest um, is really to depend upon how much money you can invest right now. Um, one of the one of the best things that again, you're going to have is, um, some people would say cryptocurrency, but I think that it's really going to come down to taking advantage of those. The interest rates is really still the best way to take advantage of what's currently going on. One of the best ways to get your portfolio diversified and to really change gears, there's a big push these days. There's a lot of voices about real estate investing. For example, Grant Cardone. He's a voice in talking about um, personal investing that kind of goes against the grain, in regards to, instead of, well, let's take, for example, Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a big voice in personal conservative finance. He's a big save your money and, definitely budget, and that money pretty much needs to stay liquid. And which, I mean, he has a lot of good things, as far as like a cash only type of envelope system to get your finances in order, more like an emergency type of intervention type of um, investing, and type of um, to take people who have examples of being in debt and then trying to show how they come out of debt. Dave Ramsey has some good steps to get out of debt. But once you're out of debt, how do you save? And usually Dave talks about definitely making sure that you match your 401k contributions. But he's big on just doubling down on your existing 401k contributions. And he wants, what he says is to kind of continue to master your existing job and just get better at your job and maybe some side hustles. But his main thing is increase the amount of money that you put into your 401k and just kind of set it, forget it, and then have your savings that you have for an emergency situation. He wants you to have $1,000 emergency fund that's liquid, and then at some point that I think that grows a little bit in liquidity so that you have more. But savings in general, besides the 401k and the emergency funds, savings is really where he goes for. And then later on, he talks about your assets as far as doing investing at that point. But Grant Cardone has more. He is a hot topic these days, and he kind of goes against the grain of what you should be doing with your money. And it's more of an aggressive, definitely an aggressive idea of how to become rich. It's not so much stabilizing and then just having a good decent plan that doesn't require you to change your life. Grant Cardone is more of a firebrand. And what he does is he has his own get rich type of academy. And that's his thing. So it's like sales training university, basically sell, side hustle, and make money however you can, hand over fist. And then also start investing into real estate and put your savings into real estate. And the idea is that your money stays somewhat liquid, and your money is, that real estate is the best investment, hands down, as far as appreciation year after year, and that you have an active stake in that investment to succeed. If you're investing into real estate either locally or through an REIT, mostly if you're doing it yourself, that's a lot of the investment he talks about is making connections and investing capital and perhaps doing some of the heavy lifting initially. But you have so much of a stake in this that you're going to make sure it's successful, and therefore your investment matures because of your hard work and your hustle. And so part of what he talks about, so he would say, for example, you need to make money, and money is not bad, and forget about the idea of 5-day work week, and make money when you're sleeping if you can, and forget about the quality of life. You should be wanting money, more than sleep. I could go on, but the idea is that if you want to be a millionaire, you have to work at it. You can't just happen on to success. Success is something that is a self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak. Some of the things that he likes to talk about as well, which is interesting. He talks about that the stock market is just something that is too volatile, and that he talks about owning a house, and he says, he's pretty blunt, and he just says, um, you shouldn't own a house, because especially in today's market, which the interest rates and inflation is so high, a house is never going to pay you. You're going to pay the house and keep paying the house, adding that the four walls of your family home are never going to make you rich. He talks about, nobody who's really been successful at being a millionaire or billionaire, they don't mention their house, or owning a home, which, really, neither here nor there. They're billionaires. But he says, in his opinion, under no scenario would a home investment outperform investing in the S&P and 500 or in gold, cryptocurrencies, or even commercial real estate. So he makes a lot of blanket statements like that, and then really that props up his his own academy type of thing. It kind of underlines that. He does have, there are allegations and there are litigation, that's, I believe, ongoing about how he doesn't follow through with some of the training that it really not successful. But really it's about finding people who have that same mentality that he does, I think, is what he's looking for when he has this in mind for his academy. And he calls out people who think buying a home, for example, for $100,000, living in it for 20 years, and then selling it for $200,000 is a financial success story, which, you're not really doing it to make some type of profit. I mean, that's, you have no idea how the market's going to look in 20 years or 30 years. And he's right. But nobody really thinks of it as that's how I'm going to, retire, so to speak. So that's a little misleading. But he does really he does talk about the idea of you should really just rent, and that he makes a joke saying that. Do you still, get laid by your wife when you rent? And if the answer is yes, then who cares? But that's a little, that's a little, I guess, lacking in, brevity of what most people think about when they think about the American dream and renting, and the constant that a house provides versus renting. And not everybody's wife is that convinced that renting is just as good as owning a house. There's something about that picturesque dream. So but I appreciate the hustle that Cardone has. I think there is something to that's important. But in talking about real estate, he talks about if trying to buy and manage physical investment property, you're gonna need partners. And he talks about trying to get help, because other people have different talents, and obviously if you're not someone who can take care of property by yourself, if you're not handy, if you're not good at the loan part, the money part, or the schmoozing part, or building those relationships, is important to make sure that you have a team, so to speak, of skills. He says, quit trying to buy it with just your money. You need, sometimes you need some capital. You bring something else to the table. Real estate is a partnership game. He says you're going to have to have a lender that will be your major partner. He lists a few different banks. um, who will probably support you on 65 to 75% of the deal. You'll have to cover the rest, the 25 to 35% with your own money. And then, he talks about come to the terms that when it comes to real estate, you're going to have to convince your friends and family, angel investors, to come up with that and help you out, which is pretty practical when it comes to that. I mean, you definitely doesn't mean you have to take that burden on by yourself, and sometimes that's a necessity with investing in any way, and even in just in supporting that support system. He claims that tapping the bank accounts of those close to you is not problematic the way people often say it is. You're going to have problems if you don't get investors, Cardone says. So he talks about how, he got his big break. He started with no money. His first deal was $3,000. Second deal was no money. Third deal was $350,000 down, and I raised most of that from people I knew. I'd like to know who he knows. But then he built a business around that approach to real estate investment. Today, his company, Cardone Capital, has a portfolio consisting of 12,230 apartment units across 37 properties. So obviously he's successful. So one of the things that he, as far as the idea of trying to do this yourself, is that real estate is that vertical niche market, that not niche market, but that vertical portfolio piece that is not bad to get into as a side hustle, as as something that you kind of see as your retirement, as your second income, and if you can do that, and if you can bring something to the table, whether it's your own capital, whether it's capital that you can raise between you and your family or other investors, people where you bring the handyman part of it to the table, or whatever you bring to the table, you can get into that. That's going to be way better than the Dave Ramsey idea of sitting on a nest egg that you keep warm over a 30-year period. The idea is that you're going to be able to definitely have your money working for you and have much more of an active participation in what your money does. And that's going to be more of you owning that, obviously figuratively and literally owning that, those assets, kind of puts you in a position where you're going to make sure that it does well. And so that, but definitely the Cardone way, it can be definitely where you have to buy into the lifestyle that he has. So you got to take some of that with a grain of salt. Some of the popular things that he likes to say. Your greatness is limited only by the investments you make in yourself. Success is your duty, obligation, and responsibility. Never lower your target, increase your actions. So a lot of it's about personal responsibility, and if you're not motivated to gain capital, then it's on you, which I love. I mean, that's pretty cool. Comfort makes more prisoners than all the jails combined. the people around you are giving you advice to slow down or take it easy, you're surrounded by the wrong people. Luck is just one of the byproducts of those who take the most action. Basically, that idea that you perpetuate your own self-fulfilling prophecy type of idea. You sleep like you're rich. I wake up like I'm broke. Let the rest do whatever while you do whatever it takes. Never quit, and you are guaranteed to find your greatness. Do whatever you need to do to get bigger than life. Average is a failing formula. That sounds pretty typical for him. Those brought up poor and middle class inherit the beliefs of the poor and the middle class. It's interesting. The hard truth is that whiners and victims don't attract or create success. Don't just make money, make a difference. Your problem isn't the problem. Your reaction to the problem is your problem. I like that. You have to approach the notion of success the way good parents approach their duty to their children. It's an honor, an obligation, a priority. As long as you are alive, you will either live to accomplish your own goals and dreams or be used as a resource to accomplish someone else's. I do like that. You will not have a successful life surrounded by negative people. Everybody's got to like that. Almost every problem people face in their careers and other aspects of their lives, such as failed diets, marriages, and financial problems, are the result of not taking enough action. Anyone that suggests to me that to do less is either not a real friend or very confused. Think big. There's no reason to think small. What you have done is nothing compared to what you can do. He goes on, you won't get much done if you only grind on the days you feel good. Oof, that one cuts. That one cuts hard. A little imagination combined with massive action goes a long way. Knowledge speaks, wisdom listens, action wins. Cash flow is not bragging rights, it's financial freedom. Yeah, can't argue with that. Money comes when you do what you're good at and work hard at it. Have a higher purpose than money. Quit settling for reality and focus on your potential. Real power only comes from repeating actions. Never fear the haters. You can't reach your potential without them. I like that. That's pretty good. The average call me obsessed. The successful call me for advice. Fair. Focus on the target, not the work. Your family is depending on you. There's no better reason to bring all your game all the time. Refuse to be tomorrow who you are today. I openly detest Wall Street, stocks, 401ks, and bond investing. Here we go. This is a good one. I despise the banks who pay almost nothing to hold my cash. So here's a good transition. And then lend it out at 9x. I only invest in cash flow producing real estate. Boom. There we go. There you go. So that's a very good idea of Grant Cardone. You know, some of his quotes, but I really like that. I'm going to repeat it one more time. I openly detest Wall Street, stocks, 401ks, and bond investing. I despise the banks who pay almost nothing to hold my cash and then lend it out at 9x. I only invest in cash flow producing real estate. So that's interesting. Only invest in cash producing real estate. I think that that's interesting. Now the question is, I mean, not everyone has time to invest in real estate or take that risk, so to speak. And the question is, how would you do that? Again, I think it's gonna take what he's talking about is talking about getting dirty. I mean, you're gonna have to literally put some skin in the game. So you're gonna have to have, 10, 20, 30, 70,000. I mean, you're gonna have to have, depending on where you live, you're going to have some money to get there. And you can do some do-it-yourself type of investments. Buy really cheap, some bankruptcy type of situations, some auctions, and then do it yourself, fix it up, find somebody you can depend on who can do really good work cheaply. You can also, the properties can be local or they can be out of state. Maybe there's something that's, out of state that's cheaper and more likely to be in your wheelhouse for investing. But it does require substantial capital to finance upfront maintenance costs and to cover periods when the property is empty. That's the things that he doesn't talk about when tenants do not pay their rent. But then I guess he would say is that you're investing in the wrong places. So there is that. And then you've got real estate investment groups, REIGs. People who want to own their own real estate without the hassles of running it. Investing in REIGs require a capital cushion and access to financing. REIGs are like small mutual funds that invest in rental properties. In a typical real estate investment group, a company buys or builds a set of apartment blocks or condos and then allows investors to purchase them through the company, thereby joining the group. A single investor can own one or multiple units of self-contained living space, but the company operating the investment group collectively manages all of the units, the maintenance, the vacancy issues, interviewing tenants. In exchange for these tasks, the company takes a percentage of the monthly rent. So it's more hands-off, provides income and appreciation. The cons, of course, are there's going to be vacancy risks and the fees similar to those associated with mutual funds, which that comes with the territory. And then, of course, you got to deal with managers, people that you don't know, that may be far away, faceless management companies, and there's unknowns with that always when you're not there, when you're not present to deal with them. Of course, you got house flipping, which can be great if you have some experience in real estate valuation, marketing, and the renovation. I mean, that's the biggest piece, is being able to deal with the repairs and have the vision, and to be able to really buy property that is in a prime position to whether it's location, seasonal, the cost, the realistic cost that it would take to flip it, and having the resources available, whether it's having the skills yourself, knowing someone you trust who's cheap and efficient, or just having the capital, I guess, to be able to quickly get the job done and move on. But location is usually key. Then you got some REITs. Now that's real estate investment trusts. This is more of the hands-off piece. I'm not sure if Grant Cardone really has this in mind when we talk about real estate, but regardless, REITs, it's best for investors who want portfolio exposure to real estate without a traditional real estate transaction like loans, etc. REIT is created when a corporation or trust uses investors' money to purchase and operate income properties. REITs are bought and sold on the major exchanges just like any stock. So you can just go to your whatever you're using, whether it's any of the big boys like Chase Bank, or Schwab, or however you want to purchase to do that. Like regular dividend paying stocks, REITs are a solid investment for stock market investors who desire regular income. In comparison to the aforementioned types of real estate investment, REITs afford investors entry into non-residential investments, such as malls or office buildings, that are generally not feasible for individual investors to purchase directly. There's a lot more. This is a lot more traditional type of asset that you're purchasing that's tradable. But more importantly, REITs are more liquid because they are exchange traded trusts. So you're not, with real estate, you're really putting yourself at risk and your investors, but your stakeholders. And so you're making an investment and you're living with that investment. But with REITs, you're thinking about something you can buy and sell every day. You don't need a real estate agent, a title transfer. You can cash out your investment. It's just they're a more formalized version of a real estate investment group. You should distinguish really between equity REITs that own buildings and mortgages, and buildings and mortgage REITs that provide financing for real estate and may also invest in mortgage-backed securities. Both offer exposure to real estate, but the nature of the exposure is a little different. An equity REIT is more traditional in that it represents ownership in real estate, whereas the mortgage REIT focus on the income from real estate mortgage financing. So you're kind of taking advantage. And equity is more of your action. It's live action real estate success, buying and selling stakes, and then whereas a mortgage REIT is more of, think of, you're kind of investing in the actual financing of the mortgage itself. And so that's a little it's a little bit of a different type of exposure. And so some of the pros, it's essentially dividend paying stocks. The core holdings tend to be long-term cash producing assets. The cons, leverage associated with traditional rental real estate does not apply. So in that you can't take advantage of, some of the pros of having your own property. You're not going to be able to take as big of a gain as you would with the fluctuation of rent and prices and things like that. It's going to be more of a long-term type of thing, but that's not necessarily bad. It's just different. Then you got online real estate platforms, and it's more for those who want to join others investing in a bigger commercial real or residential deal. It's made via a platform, kind of like a crowdfunding type of thing. It still requires investing your money, your capital, although it's less of what's required to purchase properties outright. So less skin in the game. Some of these type of places or online platforms that, for example, would be like CrowdStreet. And then for commercial real estate, crowdfunding type of purchases, it's equity multiple. And then realty mogul is another one. The idea is that you can diversify your investments without much money. So maybe starting out is a good exposure, just a good way to get that into your portfolio if you don't really want to be so invested time wise or headspace wise. You just want to get something, get your portfolio in there. Can invest in single projects or portfolio projects. Geographic diversification. You don't have to invest in just Tallahassee or Tennessee. I mean, it can be all over. And it tends to be illiquid with lockup periods. So that's one of the cons, is that you got to lock in your money, and there are management fees. Um, so whether you're doing something that takes a lot of your time or takes more of your capital, or is maybe like some of the crowdfunding type of ideas, it's more of a I think when it comes to doing your own real estate, doing it DIY type of real estate, your ceiling is really high, but your floor is really low because you could lose your pants, you could lose your shirt. And then with some of the REIGs, well, like with house flipping as well, you can lose your shirt. The ceiling is high, the floor is very, very low. REIGs and REITs, your risk is lower, so to speak, or maybe moderate, and your floor is a little higher. So, you don't really have the success probability is just capped more so, but it's more of a stable investment. And then the online real estate platforms, it seems like it's maybe more moderate for your your earning power is dependent upon how much you can invest, and it seems like it's a bit more. You have a little bit more, little bit less control over your. There's more variance because you're kind of spreading your money out, and um, it's not as you have less opportunities to take advantage of. You have to have more knowledge and more variables like different geographical, residential, commercial conditions. So online real estate platform, you really have to know what you're doing, I think, to really make a big profit. But it might be a good place to start in just figuring out what you want to do. It wouldn't, it seems like it's probably a high floor, moderate type of return depending on what you want to put into it. Some financial common misconceptions about some popular and classical ideas about money. The more money I have, the happier that I'll be. And obviously, that's more of a lifestyle type of question. It really is bigger than money, but I think it just depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Grant Cardone, as we were just discussing, I think he would say that is true. And if you talk to Dave Ramsey, he would say potentially yes, but if you don't have a good, solid plan and family unit and spiritual health and things like that, then your money isn't really worth as much as you think it is. If you talk to Warren Buffett, he would say probably he would probably agree more with the Grant Cardone side of things. Um, but obviously, what you do with that money is more about long-term satisfaction. I don't need to save for retirement now. I think that this is interesting because my wife, she, really didn't think that it was important for her to save so early. She wanted to try to get, put money into projects we were doing or vacations or etc. Quality of life type of things, which are great. But she didn't want to really start investing because she's just inconvenient. And the more she started investing, just using an app, just using Acorns or something like that, just to get, it doesn't matter what it is, just start pouring your money into some type of retirement situation and don't touch it. And you do. The earlier you start, the better chance that you'll be a millionaire, um, by 60. So very important, regardless of what type of career you go into. Another one: credit cards bring debt, so I don't need to get one. Um, I think that mainly this is more of a reactionary, depending on type of situation, depending on what you've experienced in life. If you've already done the credit card thing and it's burned you and you have a problem with credit cards, you start using them and it becomes more of a set it, forget it, not think about it, and then it bites you later every time, regardless of whether you have the cash flow or you don't. You need to stay away from them. But if you're younger, it's okay to, if you have a healthy idea of credit cards, you should probably think about building some credit. If somebody can coach you on how to do that, just spend some money on a credit card and pay it off. But credit cards are an important safety net, whether people know it or not. You can't just have a Dave Ramsey $1,000 emergency fund and then hope that that's going to carry you through in tough times. Sometimes a credit card can really be the difference between getting your mortgage met that month, getting all your groceries met, or really being able to purchase a security or an asset that's timely for you to make a real good return. Sometimes you need to be able to keep your family afloat. Credit cards are important. If I have enough money, I don't need to budget and save. Very false. People that I've known personally, we've all known personally, people who don't have some type of plan in general for where their money goes, knowing where it goes, where it doesn't go, not to the point at which they're micromanaging everything that can become unhealthy. But if you don't have a plan for percentages of where your money goes, then you're going to be left with wondering where it went at some point. All my problems will be solved with more money. Again, this is more of a type of a lifestyle question. I need at least 3 months of income in my emergency savings. I think that's good if you can do that, especially if it helps you deal with anxiety. Having a nice, healthy, if you have most of your debt paid off, if you're not in debt, you only have a mortgage and a car payment, then I think being able to have at least 3 months of income for your emergency savings is wonderful. Another one: money can buy me friends and love. And again, a cultural type of question. No, it can buy you some temporary things, but it will not buy. It will mainly buy you grief if you live by that. The rich live in big houses, drive nice cars, and wear the most expensive clothes. I'm not going to touch that. If I have more money, I will have more security. I think that's generally true. Um, let's be honest. Money increases my odds of meeting people. Um, I think that can be true. I know people who are hermits who have money who have worked hard their entire life and they have no desire to go out and do those things. But it's true that there's certain social achievements that become unlocked just by having money. It's not really an achievement. I need to be rich in order to travel. Um, I don't think that's a misconception. You need to have a budget. Yes, you need to have a budget, and you can go places. You can save and achieve what you want to do and be able to travel. But honestly, it is expensive to travel, to eat, to do gas, to fly. It doesn't matter. I think you could probably say that 5 to 10 years ago, maybe even, yeah, I'd say 10 years ago, this was maybe more of a reality, but I think it's becoming more and more so that unless you're going to use your tax return to plan to travel, or you've been planning for it, or you're going to get a bonus, or you just budget for it. Definitely, you can do that. But I think in general, people who travel more have more income and they have more in their checking and savings accounts. It's just true. Um, it's normal to have a lot of debt. 77% of American households have some kind of consumer debt, but not all debt is created equal. Some debt is good debt, like a mortgage, potentially. Usually in a normal cycle, and we're not in a normal cycle, it's fairly low interest loan. Like, for example, my loan on my house is pretty low. It's 3.5%, but that was something that I was able to take care of, during the pandemic, when that was very, very low. And it does build you in some, loans, build your credit, if you do it responsibly. So it's normal to have some type of debt. Bad debt is high interest debt or even low interest debt that's left unchecked, that you don't pay off or take care of or have a plan for. It's still bad debt. Bad debt is debt that you ignore or don't have a plan for. But high debt is bad debt, especially even worse because it's just it snowballs and it really can hurt you. I should avoid talking about my money problems with others. It shouldn't be, because it can really help people kind of figure out their plan. And I think it's important for people to talk about their problems openly. It definitely should be taken with a grain of salt. You definitely don't want to talk about money problems all the time and not. If you know what your plan is, you shouldn't just talk about it without some restraint. It definitely helps family and friends. You should talk about it until you can come up with a plan and get some help and get some counseling, get some support. Nothing wrong with that. It's better to buy a house rather than to rent. I think that that just, first of all, it depends on where you live and where you want to live. Number one, I think that it's if you are single, and that you can have roommates, you should rent, especially if you're in a city and you can split up the rent 3 ways or 2 ways. You should not be investing in a house, honestly, unless you are skilled in flipping houses, or you have a plan for it, a very specific plan, if you're early to the game, you should think about renting. And even if you have a family, with just one spouse, just a spouse, no kids, or if you have a spouse and kids, if you can rent efficiently and be happy, you probably should, until you have the ability to take on that mortgage and that risk. I need to be rich in order to invest. No, you don't. You do need to have some positive cash flow. You shouldn't be investing when you are still putting. If you're trying to live on a credit card, you can't do that. But if as long as you have budgeted an amount to invest, you should be budgeting. You shouldn't be investing, especially early. A high salary equals wealthy. That is not true. A high salary coupled with the right location where real estate's expensive, and if you own expensive assets and you're paying on expensive things, then your high salary is going to expensive, highly costly holes, and so your end result is that you have zero to show for it. So no, there should be some type of you should have some type of idea of being scrappy as far as going without where you can, so you can make a big windfall into your savings and where you're putting your money for investments. I can't improve my finances unless I work with a professional. That's definitely not true. You can definitely learn a lot by yourself, but it does help to use a professional, at least to get a general plan in general, to move forward, but you don't need a professional to do that. I need to work until 65 in order to retire. That didn't used to be the truth, but unless you are working for the federal government or state, or you are in a good union, like teachers union, electrical union, unless you're in a good union, a retirement is something that is really up to you. And if you don't, it's really up to what you put in it. And if you're not putting enough in it, you don't have a good match from your employer, from a private employer, that's going to be on you to really go outside the box to make your portfolio work for you, so that you can retire at a decent age. And there's nothing wrong with working past your retirement, even if you are financially free. You should continue to work if you can. There's nothing, studies show that, mental health is important for people to continue working after retirement. Retirement should really be about an acknowledgement and a celebration of what you've achieved. Definitely shouldn't be the end of your work or your interests stopping. But again, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to Timeless Investing, and I hope to see you soon. We'll have plenty of content available that we'll post as often as possible that will be hopefully interesting to you.